Hi there. My name is Alyssa, and I oversee patient care at Options Naturopathic Clinic. And today I'm here with two of our naturopathic doctors, Dr. Aaron and Dr. Patrick. And today we're going to talk a little bit about acute illness and family support around that. So first, I'd like to kind of talk about the alternatives that we offer to things like antibiotics, steroids, over-the-counter medications when you're sick or have an acute illness, in other words. Can you kind of elaborate on those a bit?
Yeah. So when you talk about acute illness, that's kind of a short period of intense, reaction of the body. So think of like a cold or a flu. During this time, maybe you have an increase in fever, that is upregulating the immune system. So you have more white blood cells, you have more antibody production. Your body is kind of in a heightened state of reaction to help you, resolve what's going on. And think of it almost like a spring cleansing, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So, when your appetite goes away, that's your body's way of kind of conserving energy and focusing on what needs to happen. Maybe you get tired. Maybe you get a runny nose. That's your body's way of getting rid of waste products and toxins. Yeah. And so these are your body's way of doing like a spring cleansing. And just like, when you're cleaning your garage or cleaning your room, things have to kind of get a little messy before they get better, before things get put into place. And so that's what's going on. It's not that you're catching something or developing something. It's because your body is reacting and throwing something off internally. So colds and flus are never caught. They're created. They're created because if you're doing the spring cleansing.
So this ties back to our video about terrain health and this whole concept of germ theory, where people are so indoctrinated in thinking that there are particles of bacteria and viruses flying all throughout the air. Absolutely there are, but they're not what actually make you sick. So that's really fundamental to what we're trying to help people understand, that this concept of infection is really better and more aptly called outfection. So as we have come to understand this concept called the microbiome, which is the sum total of all the bacteria that live in our gut and in our body, they're not separate from us. The microbiome is actually serving the higher organization of the person and mobilizing that crud and that toxicity and what needs to be eliminated out of the body. So it's not that you caught something and that you're infected. It's that you're actually mobilizing the old you as you change and grow and have new awarenesses.
So we wouldn't want to use things like antibiotics and steroids and over-the-counter medications to suppress that response. We want to allow it to happen.
All of those medications are killing your microbiome, which we now know is related to your longevity and health and wellness and chronic disease. So you absolutely don't want to do anything that's killing those things.
And two things can happen when you do that. So when you suppress a fever or when you stop the runny nose, one, the illness is going to last longer. Yeah. And two, you're actually driving that illness from an acute response deeper into the body, whether it's in the immediate future or in the, distant future.
That's how you make chronic illness. Yes,
absolutely. Well, so let's talk a little bit about children and childhood illnesses. This is definitely something that I have experienced personally with two children of my own, going to daycare and off to school, and they're always getting sick, it seems like. So how can you say that that is not germs that are causing that?
So yes, I absolutely understand why people get confused, because children start school and then they get sick, and even the caretaker gets sick. Yep. And so it really seems as if they're bringing something home. They all have these runny noses, but what we never think about and what people typically just, blow right over is how much of a stinky situation that whole scenario is, that I have to go to work and I have to have somebody else take care of my child. And not only that, I have to pay the person to do that. So the whole situation. And then of course the child, when they first go off to school, typically don't want to be left there. They're usually clinging to their car seat. They're like, I'm not going anywhere. So the manifestation of that in the body is the symbolic presentation of a stinky situation where there's a lot of congestion and mucus in the head and the sinuses. Huh.
And with, the other thing to be aware of, especially in recent times, is babies are born with a lot of toxicity. A lot of, chemicals are ready even prior to being born. Some studies by the Environmental Working Group have shown that, in the umbilical cord blood, there's over, 280 chemicals already in the blood. A lot of them, cancer causing or neurotoxic or have, developmental, effects. And so that's, another thing on top of, the emotional aspects and stresses that go along into that.
Yeah.
That's also part of it.
We generally view acute illness as the response that the body is presenting based on the circumstances that the individual is experiencing. So we really help the patient understand the context of the circumstances of their life. So another example that I can give other than, the sinus or cold picture with little kids going off to school for the first time is urinary tract infection. So this really often has to do with somebody trying to hold their ground in their territory. We've seen multiple circumstances where the patient is in a situation where either somebody wants them to move and live with them like a boyfriend, or their children are still at home and the adult children and the mom is like ready for them to be gone. So those kinds of things can drive the presentation of what we would generally call a urinary tract infection. But those symptoms are really just showing that there's like a territorial marking that needs to be happening. Yeah. And, it may sound crazy until you start to pay attention to these things. Yeah. And when you really start looking, you start seeing that the body is just encoding what the feelings are.
So that really brings it all together with the emotional connection to this acute illness that seems only physical.
Yes.
So what does all of this mean? What do you do when a person gets ill?
Yeah. So as all the things that we mentioned before, we're supporting the body not to, again, target the symptoms, not to go after anything in particular, but we support the body to help have that spring cleansing reaction, right? To help that, to putting off whatever's going on, both mentally, emotionally, and physically. And we do that through a number of ways, whether it's using homeopathics, whether it's using nutrition, using hydrotherapy, all these things we help to support the body.
That is how the body heals. And so we support the process that the body's going to do no matter what, whether you like it or not. And that's what facilitates that complete healing and the avoidance of toxic interventions like chemical pharmaceuticals.
Well, and we have all kinds of information on our website, especially about acute illness and ways that you can integrate our way of looking at it into your own personal life. So definitely check that out. It's optionsnaturopathic.com.